Good evening and welcome to our Orca News Special. This is the 2021 National Presidential Debate. Tonight your host, Carson Nilgers. With me today is Paul Wanders.
Yes, Carson. Tonight we will be tackling the different platforms of our presidential nominees for the national elections this February.
Tonight we are live at Shuttler Assembly Hall to conduct our national debate. With us today with our panel moderators is Orca News International Correspondent and Political Chief Reporter, Mr. Eamon Rhodes. Also with us today is the Mayor of the Municipality of Shuttler, Mr. Justin Limson. And lastly, one of our senior reporters, Miss Mata Parkinson.
And the candidates for us today. We have the President of Landova, Mr. President Jerwin S. Limson. He is in the Red Conservative. He was born on January 15, 1984. And now at the age of 37. He is the incumbent president of Landova from 2019. He was the mayor of Plainsfield City from 2017 to 2019.
Next, we have the Vice President of Landova, Mr. Vice President Thompson Isamonte. He belongs to the Fusion Party. He was born on August 2, 1981. And now at the age of 39. He is the incumbent Vice President of Landova from 2019. And last but not the least, we have former Mayor, Mr. Ganner. He belongs to the Landovian Acts Party. He was born on May 22, 1988. And now is at the age of 32. He was the mayor of Flathills Village from 2016 up to 2019.
Yes, thank you, Carson. This debate will decide it all for the incoming government in Landova.
Yes, Paul. In this debate, we will be allowing our candidates to express, explain, commentate, and say what they want for their nation. For all our viewers at the home or elsewhere, please stay tuned in our programming and recognize who you are voting for the incoming elections.
Okay, first of all, we are reminded that we can't take unnecessary opinions about the candidates' speeches. The candidates already signed a contract of obeying the general rules of the debate. The candidates were told to keep themselves quiet when another candidate is speaking. The panel moderators were being told also not to take unnecessary opinions of the candidates. And live viewer audiences here at the premises were told to keep themselves quiet and avoid boos, cheers, and noises.
The venue today is safely and heavily guarded by the Landovian National Police around the area. Road closures are in effect here in the area. The audiences, members, and the candidates here were all have been given swab tests for the coronavirus before this debate. All of us were tested negative. The Congress pardons all for delaying this debate last Saturday.
The debate today will run for 20 to 30 minutes. Any exceeding amount of time will be delegated and be prolonged for only a total of a maximum of 1 hour.
We are now ready for the debate, but we will be right back after the breaks. Please stay put, we will be right back. And we are back. Now, the candidates are feeling fine and now ready. The first section of our debate 2021 is the opening remarks. Candidates, you only have 1 minute each to state your opening remarks. We will begin with Mr. President Jerwin S. Limson of the Red Conservative Party. Mr. President, go ahead.
To all who are watching and listening, I am Jerwin Limson, representing the Red Conservative Party and taking the office of the presidency of Landova for 2021. For my third term, we will live better, we will seek better, and we will unite better. We are in the process of returning ourselves to the normal state of our lives. In my cabinet, we have made the country prosper as we join forces with our people of this nation. The future has yet to come and to continue the great things this country has made. This is President Limson running for president in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, President Limson. And now for our second candidate for his opening remarks. Here is Mr. Vice President Thompson I. Samant of the Fusion Party. Mr. Vice President, go ahead, sir.
Dear people, dear Landovians, I am Thompson Samant running for president in the Republic of Landova, representing the Fusion Party. Landova has built itself better in the economy, infrastructure, and agriculture. We have yet to redeem that due to the crisis we're all having. We understand that we have suffered a lot. From my vice presidency, I didn't and I admit that we're losing the foreseeable things we want to have. I admit that I haven't done much in this administration. For the record, I have been heavily drought on the things we had in the past. For this upcoming election, we will rise. We are going to fix up the rubble it had made last year. Thank you.
Thank you too, Mr. Vice President Samant. And now for our third candidate for his opening remarks. Here is the former mayor of Flat Hills Village, Pete R. Jenner. Mr. Mayor, go ahead, please.
Good evening to all. I am Pete Jenner, former mayor of Flat Hills Village, representing the Landovian Acts Party. In my time as mayor of Flat Hills Village, it began to be the next step of a clean and neat civilization. In the rural sectors, we were being left out. Not much had happened in the past administrations in our village in the province of the Old Terrestrial. But this day forward, we will rebuild the town we started and was done 4 years ago. We will never leave anyone at the side in this age of crisis. For my presidency, I have made plans and proposals to be brought up to the Congress for rebuilding a better nation. This day forward, I will look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner, and to all our candidates. And that concludes the first section of our debate. We will be right back after the break. This is the 2021 Landova presidential debate. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back. In the next section of our 2021 presidential debate, we will call this segment Direct to the Point. In this section, the panel will give the candidates the same questions to be answered for all of them. Each candidate must answer the question in 1 minute and 30 seconds. A candidate must not take in for an argument and or feedbacks about the other candidate's answer. So the questions will be asked by our panel moderators right here. We may now begin with Ms. Parkinson. You may ask the question now.
Good evening, candidates. The first question would be, in this time of the pandemic, we are facing a huge crisis in our nation and the world. From your perspective, what do you think of our country is doing right now and in the future in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic? Mr. President, go ahead.
I think that right now we are doing good in handling this pandemic if it wasn't for you all dear viewers who followed our safety protocols. We made the country free from the coronavirus for 2 months and going. In the future of this country, I am expecting that cases will not rise above 100. All the people in this nation will be vaccinated and be immune from the disease. In my office, I will obtain myself in fulfilling this expectation. And I will regain this nation from its burden of the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
What I am seeing in this country is at the moment, we're lucky that we didn't see any suspected and notable cases from the past days and weeks. I acknowledge that through the fellow healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, and everyone who served in protecting this country, this had made us temporarily free from the coronavirus. We all know that the pandemic is not over yet. I don't want to see and expect any more rising of cases and seeing a person with the said new strains from different countries. Through my administration, COVID-19 is a major terror of our country. We will give the Landovian people the weapons in fighting it, such as approved vaccines and regular maintaining of good health. We can achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
The people today are relieving so much from the past months. From my own experiences, it was shocking and heartbreaking. I see that today is just the beginning of a new start of a better world. I have served my fellow people in Flat Hills Village the true dignity I have pleased. The coronavirus is just a way to treat society better. I expect that in my administration we may treat our nation better. We must eradicate the virus first. We must be the people we always choose to do healthy things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, candidates.
The next question will be from Mayor Limson. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Carson. The next question would be: the two-door industrial park municipality project has been delayed since it was established. Some criticize that this was a failed plan for our country. If you were to be the next president, what would you do about the two-door project? Mr. Vice President, you may go ahead.
You know what, that project was just a humble start. Nothing has left to lose in that project. Two-door hasn't been just worked out. One point is that we're having trouble designing and planning the industrial park municipality. We just lack some architects and engineers. If I may be working on the project, I may be looking forward to foreign investors, architects, engineers, and buyers. We don't have enough manpower to work this out. As I said, I may be looking forward to architects and engineers, even builders and construction workers. We just haven't planned it out yet. It wasn't a failed plan by the government, if I may ask.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. President, go ahead.
I didn't establish the municipality to be a total waste. It was in fact the sketch of our new proposal. Like Mr. Thompson has said, we didn't plan it out yet. It wasn't a failure or a mistake to establish the municipality. The budget of the project all goes into the construction project of two-door if we have the planned phase of design. I had talked a long time ago with the Secretary of Urban Planning and Development Department. They said there is an initial proposal to the industrial park, but I haven't approved that yet because we don't have the sufficient funds and capabilities to build the proposal. I said that they must redraft the proposal because we just cannot build the municipality right away. If I were to be re-elected president, I will send out all aspiring and good designers and architects in Landova to plan out tutor. I may also include the reservation of foreign investors and the purchase of a probable real estate in the municipality. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, go ahead, sir.
Two-door might be a failure. I haven't got news from the Urban Planning and Development Department about the planning of the project. It was just said that it was still a proposed industrial park municipality. Well, look at two-door today. It's still empty with only a port to look for. The port wasn't even finished when it was built. Then there's railroad placed above and below the port. Where would that take to? Underground mines? Is this even a quarry? What I would do about this failed project is continue the port, just the port, and minimize the land usage that is for industrial and commercial purposes. We don't need a lot of architects and engineers for this one. It will be done right away at the right time. Whether it would be a failure to bring this municipality, it is already started. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, candidates. Next, who will be asking the question is Eamon Rhodes. Mr. Rhodes, go ahead.
Thank you, Carson. The Climate Ambition Summit of the United Nations last December has made countries worldwide seek more in the climate crisis we're having in the past years we had. The Secretary-General of the United Nations Antonio Guterres has urged all other countries to declare climate emergencies until carbon neutrality has reached. President Limson on the 20th of December has declared a climate emergency throughout Landova in the response to the climate crisis the world is facing. According to international reports, Europe got more of its electricity from renewable sources than fossil fuels for the first time last year. 38% of the electricity came from renewable energy while 37% of which is from fossil fuels. The European Union has made into effect the spread to use solar and wind energy. It is also noted that lockdown measures have reduced the consumption of electricity last year. In your administration, if you were to become the next president, what is your plan in resolving the climate crisis we are having in Landova? What are you going to do in this state of climate emergency?
We may start with Mayor Jenner. Mr. Mayor, go ahead, please.
I was updated about the news that happened to our world over the past few months. Climate has been a big issue for all of us. Not everyone is aware. In my administration, our goal is to minimize our carbon footprints and protect humanity. The village of Flat Hills isn't even gone over coal-produced electricity. Most of our electricity came from solar and hydroelectric energy. It is indeed beneficial. We may also lower the costs of producing energy rate if we could pass the bill in Congress. For the whole nation of Landova, we may be too small to cause a situation, but there's a big effect. Likewise, we can be the first country to mass-produce lifelong renewable energy without existing the use of greenhouse gases production. It is my target to change the existential use of the bloated proposed nuclear power plant. Climate change would be prolonged in some ways if we don't do anything by now. Labor forces in the country must reduce their workload consumption because physical energy is also consumed. If that is the case, more energy will be consumed when a person is idle. When it comes to nature and the environment, we are already protecting the sanctuary and wildlife in most areas of the country. It is the urban development that has wrecked this state. Nevertheless, it's still a need to gain some economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. President.
First things first, as I have said, the nuclear power plant is just a proposal for the municipality of $2. We haven't talked with Congress and the Urban Planning and Development Department about the construction of the power plant. However, planning the said power plant has been an issue as I said earlier. I cannot guarantee the construction of the power plant. As regards climate, we have been planning to announce executive orders for combating the climate crisis. First is the overall use of solar lamps in the streets. Second is the establishment of solar farms and wind farms in rural areas of Landova. Third is the inspection and reduction of carbon-emitting establishments, vehicles, and utility. And lastly, is the comprehensive action of the community in combating the crisis for local governments and establishments. I haven't taken in for granted the situation our country is doing right now. But rest assured this may be the best thing our country would have done.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Vice President.
A transitional change in the world is quite unexpected. It began when the Second World War and the Cold War to finally have the resolution on knowing what is happening to our world. Now in the Paris Agreement, it changes dramatically. The climate crisis is an invisible war in society, in the environment, and every part of the world. Who knew that COVID-19 is the only danger we're having? But in my administration, if I were to become the next president, we would have an agreement with the Redstone Committee Group to propose energy-efficient and eco-friendly technological advancements to our day-to-day objects, protecting marine and terrestrial wildlife by safeguarding carefully inhabited biodiversity. It is truly a once-endangered world.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And thank you, candidates in the panel. We will be right back after the break. This is the 2021 Landova presidential debate. And we're back. In this next section of our 2021 debate, we are gonna call this yay or nay. This is where candidates will all state if they agree or disagree with a particular question or topic the panel will ask. The panel moderators will state the question, and the candidates will show on their screens if they agree or disagree with the question. No further explanation will be needed for the candidate's response. Okay, we may now start.
Do you agree on constructing the proposed nuclear power plant in the municipality of Tudor? Do you agree on amending the election system in the Constitution of Landova? Do you agree with land modification and reclamation and building new cities in Landova? Do you agree on providing better loans in providing a sustainable, healthy living society? Do you agree on foreign investors and individuals purchasing real estates and properties in Landova, specifically in Picot City? Do you agree to build an airport in Landova in your term? Do you agree on mandating face masks nationwide in order to limit the spread of the coronavirus? Do you agree with the cooperation of the United States with the new administration on setting new foreign policies, travel regulations, COVID-19 handling, and extreme bilateral relations politically and economically? Do you agree that all Landovian citizens must be inoculated from the coronavirus when the vaccine is available and ready? And lastly, do you agree that you will succeed if you will be holding the office of the presidency?
Thank you once again, candidates in the panel, for conducting the third portion of this debate.
Now, for I'm sure that all are now excited to know more about these candidates. For the next segment of our debate, in the fourth section of our debate, we will call this the argument. In this section, the panel will ask the candidates a specific question about a concerning topic. The candidate will then answer the panel's question. The other candidates can argue or add some other statements about the candidate's question and answer. The candidate's question will be given to answer for only 2 minutes each. Candidates who want to argue, counterclaim or add statements can only have 1 minute each to state their feedbacks. Counter-arguing is indefinite for the candidates. We may now begin with Mayor Limson.
Thank you. This question is for the president. Here is your question. The pandemic has caused a lot. In your handling of this pandemic in our country, you have imposed COVID-19 alert levels in different places in Landova. In the survey conducted last 2 weeks ago, most people said that the alert levels are too serious and it is too much of a big deal to impose an alert level, even if there is no suspected and confirmed active COVID-19 case in a particular place. The question is, what is your response to this, and how will you handle the coronavirus if you will be re-elected president?
Thank you for that question. Dear Landovians, dear people, it is a big deal to impose these alert levels. We don't want to be infected yet again. We don't want people to be suffering. It is for your own sake that I impose these alert levels. If I won't, you might be accusing us and you might say that we will be regretful for what we have done to our country. We didn't impose these levels just for too much to handle. I always contacted local officials if I could present this and impose this alert level for them because of possible transmission of the virus. We always carefully scheme on a place if we could impose an alert level. It is too much to handle for us. If I were to be re-elected again for president, I will continue this as well as mass vaccinating all Landovians. This is too serious to handle and we're not limiting your freedom of movement in the nation. Please understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Ginner wants to argue. Go ahead. Mayor, 1 minute starts now.
I just noticed that your cabinet is insanely disregarding the protocol guidelines of the alert levels. One of which is that people in rural areas didn't know the guidelines of each alert level that is imposed on their area. And they didn't know what to do or what to expect. I would say that you must modify and improvise the alert levels for better understanding. It has become to be an issue in handling the coronavirus. Mr. President, please respond to my statement.
I truly agree that the alert level description and information are an issue. I know that is confusing and not much is elaborated in regards to the different levels. My cabinet, the health department with the local government are already proposed the improvised alert levels which will be in effect after Congress agrees on it. From my cabinet, I don't have the reports of them disregarding the said protocols. I don't.
Thank you again, Mr. President. We may now move on with our second panelist, Ms. Mata Parkinson. Mata.
Thank you. This question is for Mayor Jenner. Here is your question. The province of Ye Old Terrestrial is seeking to move into the urban areas of Landova. Immediate funding problems and lack of budget have been an issue for the province's development. It was proposed and made into effect by President Lim Son last November that agricultural farming would resolve the issue. This was taken place in your village that farming can help the livelihood of your people. The question is agriculture a benefit for the people in the province? What would you do in the province's situation if you were to become the president and why? 2 minutes starts now.
Yes, it is very beneficial for agriculture to grow into our province. We don't seek any commercial establishments for the province as most of it could be a foul side in our history. The problem is that not many jobs can handle in the province. There are no available jobs. There are not many livelihoods that can take in there. If I were to become president, I would set a proposal for a rural livelihood program. In that way, people in the province can earn themselves the right amount of money and time they have in their places. We would also be initiating working on the Redstone Committee group to provide benefits in the province, some of which is the development and advancement of modern-day technology. I would also be supporting low-class income by giving them special priority funds. Incentives can also be given to minimum wage workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jenner. President Lim Son wants to counter-argue. Mr. President, 1 minute starts right now.
You know that our people aren't leaving Ye Old Terrestrial not for poverty but for them looking for jobs. I believe that the province of Ye Old Terrestrial is a rich part of the country. One of the key core villages that shaped our nation. I wouldn't let them made poor for what they have. As a matter of fact, Commerce Valley Terraces Village was proposed to be a commercially established village as the name says it. But in the past years, it didn't happen. They just created a landfill just for tourists. For my administration, we will continue the CVTV project. Creating new jobs, creating new establishments, creating livelihood for the people of Ye Old Terrestrial.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Jenner wants to counter-argue. 1 minute starts now.
Mr. President, we had lacked budget when I was held into office. Most of the time, we just relied on what we just had. It is not in my duty and power to obtain many funds that were unauthorized and inconsiderate. By that, it is the people's freedom and will to move whenever and wherever they want. Nothing much and nothing less is affected when Ye Old Terrestrial is said to be poor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will be taking a short break. The 2021 Landova presidential debate continues after the break. Hello and welcome back. We are still in the fourth section of our debate, which is called the argument. Now we go ahead with Mr. Rhodes for his question.
Thank you. This question is for Vice President Samant. Here is your question. Having a strong relationship with the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and the European Union may have a substantial growth in our economy. Businesses and local companies here in our country have severely declined profit and the workers' productivity due to the pandemic. The country has not faced an economic fall or an economic recession for once since its independence. My question is, what would you do if you were to become the next president to regain the economic growth and prosperity in the nation? What would you do to avoid the possible economic recession? Are you willing to cooperate multilaterally with other nations? Mr. Vice President, 2 minutes starts now.
I will cooperate multilaterally with our friendly allies of the European Union and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, putting trades, imposing tariffs, and regulating foreign policies. It is simply that in my administration we would just create and put into effect our economists have been planning. The Commerce and Industry Department will have to monitor the rate of production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services in the nation. But for now, we haven't planned that yet. I am willing to help small businesses provide easier management of capital, produce, and supplies, providing easier access to gains and revenue, resolving not to a recession.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. President wants to counter-argue. 1 minute, go ahead.
So, you don't have a plan. I see it. You know what? The main agenda of the economy is just economic growth. This is to increase the quality of life of our people. I agree that we must have multilateral ties with other countries, but with limited reasons. One is which we are not begging, second is that we still have the needed resources of our nation, and third is we are not seeing an economic recession. My point is we are still fine. No need to take action. The pandemic has just made our economy decrease a little bit, even if our tourism has closed down.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Vice President to counter-argue. 1 minute, go ahead.
I am not an economist, Mr. President. Bear with me, I have colleagues who graduated in economics and finance management. I will appoint them as soon as I will be president. And we will work this out.
That is our problem. We have people who are incapable and impotent to take office.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, candidates, for your responses. Thank you again to our panel moderators. The debate is not over yet. The final segment of our debate up next after the break. This is the 2021 Landova presidential debate.
And we are back. For the final section of our presidential debate, each candidate has only 2 minutes to say his closing and final remarks. Candidates are free to say whatever they want, limiting their campaign, motto, and perspective for their presidency. Let us now begin with Mr. President Limson. Mr. President, you have 2 minutes to say your closing remarks. Go ahead, sir.
To all my dear Landovians that I served the nation for 2 years, I humbly have been grateful for what we have made in this nation. I truly appreciate your efforts and supports in having this time. I truly respect you on who you will vote for. Your vote determines a lot. But for my next term, we will be a more developed nation, establishing buildings, infrastructures, agriculture, and prosperous civilization. We will expand the roots of these nations outbound further. establishing a better relations with the U.S. and the new administration that shaped and freed us to our liberty. We would cooperate with great ties with the European Union and the United Kingdom, supporting economically and beating the coronavirus. We will vaccinate each individual person in this nation for free. In my administration, a culture-centered union will help develop this nation. It is my duty to fulfill my responsibilities. I wish you all luck. Good luck. Let's have a safe and fair election, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Up next is Mr. Vice President Samante. Mr. Vice President, you have 2 minutes to say your closing remarks. Start now.
To my fellow people, we're having this time to know and know us more. For this time, I am honored yet again to run for president. I thanked all who supported me last elections, and I will thank all who will support me in these upcoming elections. For this year, COVID-19 and close ties relations with other countries are the main points. Effective healthcare is one of my first things to do if I were to be the president. Distribution of vaccines will be given freely with the administration in case of health benefits. Close good relationships with other countries are the next thing we would have. You will see that this country will rise economically and politically. Vote wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And now lastly, here we have Mr. Mayor Ganner. Mr. Ganner, you have 2 minutes to say your closing remarks, starting now.
The time that I was in office being mayor of Flat Hills Village, we've been facing a lack of resources in our village. We've been lacking a budget due to our village not being fully developed. One thing we agreed with President Limson was the growth and establishment of agriculture in our village. It has made our village grow. By this time as I am running for president, the village will continue to rise. Temporary jobs have been made in the village. For my administration, the jobless will have jobs. COVID-19 will be eradicated in this nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all the candidates.
And this is us for tonight's debate. We hope we can help you choose the right candidate that we can have for president this year.
Yes, Paul. From our guests, panel moderators, and most especially the candidate nominees for the presidency, we thanked all of you for supporting our programming tonight. We also thank all who watched the whole debate with us. This will help you know more about the candidates who will be running for president of the Republic of Landova.
Yes, before we end our programming tonight, we would like to thank our staff from Orca News, the reporters who are covering this story, and the production, media, management team.
Yes, and that is it. This is us for today. I am Carson Nilgers.
And this is Paul Wanders.
Saying a blessed evening. Good evening, everyone.